Hey there friends, Foster the Canadian here, and welcome back to another Fridays with Foster, Doomsday Edition. As you guys know, it is December 21st, 2012, and if the world hasn't ended already, it's gonna end when I upload this. 4 Fridays with Fosters in a row. Really glad that I could make it happen, and it's all because of you guys sending me in your stories and, sharing experiences with me that I can share to the rest of you. And I really appreciate that. Now, before we get started, I just want to mention the gameplay here. Again, not the best gameplay, but it is so... I had such a great time playing, and I think you can see that. It's on Exile, which is a vehicle-heavy map, and I use pretty much every vehicle there. And you will not find a better wheelman. I do betray a teammate, splattering him, but hey, you know what? Take one for the team, right? So let's get on to our first story. I'd like to call this first story ATV plus Tree. When I was younger, I had some experience with racing. We would occasionally get a campsite in a small town far away from where I lived currently, called Tower City. While there, I would learn how to drive, ride, fix, and work on ATVs so that I could race. When I got older, I got into an accident in a race with my mom that almost killed me. You see, one day a few years ago when I was about 15, my mom decided to go outside the back of my stepdad's yard, which was extremely large at the time. We typically covered the edge of the property as a racetrack, and we would race against one another every now and then. It was a family thing we would do, just to mess around. Like I was saying, my mother decided to race me. Near the end of the track, it is narrow. Not really bad for a single person, but for two, it was cutting it a little close. There are also two ways to come in that narrow intersection. While racing my mother, I decided to take a shortcut, and we met at the intersection at the same time. When we met up, she looked like she was going to speed through, but she did not. She had suddenly pulled the e-brake and I was still bolting forward, not paying attention. Around the corner was an evergreen tree, the ones with branches that are near the ground, and the branches could easily spear someone. Well, I managed to fail at braking. I slammed into the tree and woke up about 3 hours later in my stepdad's house. I was cut up badly, but not speared by the tree. My helmet, however, was dented quite a bit. The helmet had saved my life. I find it embarrassing to talk about because I should have been more focused on where I was and how fast I was going. But I figured, it's not too bad. I came out of it okay, but now I refuse to ride ATVs of any sort, since I'm scared it will happen again. I get that nervous twitch, you know? Anyways, I hope you can use this, Foster. See you around. And, first off, right off the bat, I would like to say, I can't stress how important helmets are. I've seen way too many people mess themselves up real bad because they weren't wearing a helmet. It's simple. Just put the helmet on. You look cooler, I think. You're like a warrior strapping in for battle. But anyway, I'm really glad that you came out of that pretty much unscathed. It could have been a lot worse. I know you weren't unscathed, but it easily could have been a horrible situation. Now, when I was reading this, I was thinking about the only time I ever was in an ATV. It was the first and last experience I had with one. Well, I shouldn't say last. I might get one in the future, unless this doomsday thing is real. But we'll see once I upload this. Now, my only experience was in my uncle's backyard, and he had a pretty big backyard. The thing was, he got this new ATV. He's like, you want to check it out? I'm like, 12, 13 years old. I'm like, hell yeah, I get in. And there's about one tree in his backyard for 50, 60 meters. And immediately, when I get in that ATV, I go right for the tree. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I go right into it, and, I remember, it felt like it was possessed. It was just turning by itself, and I remember thinking, it's got a mind of its own! And then, bam, into the tree. I wasn't damaged. I was going maybe, 5 kilometers an hour, so it really wasn't bad. But, yeah, thanks for sharing your story, and hope that, you've learned your lesson, and I hope that other people will learn to wear a helmet. Alright, this next story I'd like to call Mistake on Thin Ice. Hi, Foster. This is a story of how I almost got someone killed. This is a story that I'm very ashamed of, so I didn't want to send it to you because of how you might think of me. Please note that everything was a horrible mistake, and I wish I could take it back. Here's how it goes. We were at a frozen lake near my hometown in the winter a few years ago. We weren't skating or playing hockey or anything, just messing around. It was me, my brother, and his best friend. They were 13 years old, I was 11. And we were joking around with each other, like pushing around and joke fighting. I noticed that the ice started to crack a bit. And I didn't think the lake was deep, so I started stomping and jumping. They were yelling at me to stop, but I thought it was funny, so I kept going. They were slipping, trying to run from the cracks when it happened. My brother's friend fell, and the ice shattered under him. My brother was trying to get away still and didn't notice, but I did. Instead of trying to help, I ran. I was scared and didn't know what to do. I told my brother, and he freaked out and told my parents. Soon the rescue team showed up and was able to pull him out of the ice and revive him. He almost lost his life because of me. I want you to not think less of me, and use this to let people know not to make the mistake I did. Thank you, and I love your vids. Well, thank you very much, I appreciate that. But right off the bat, I know that this wasn't a question, you asking me for advice or anything, but you didn't want me to think less of you. I'll say this right now. Of course I don't think less of you. You were 11 years old, you were a kid, and you were going out. I don't want to place the blame on, the person that almost died, but they're 13 years old. They should know better by then not to go out onto a frozen lake without any parental supervision or anything, because this kind of stuff happens. And it's not a very rare occurrence. When I was a kid, I heard stories of kids falling in the lake all the time. And the fact that you went out without parental supervision, I think, was the biggest mistake here, not you running away. Anyway, this is a story that kind of hits home, because I used to play on frozen lakes all the time. Being a red-blooded Canadian kid, I loved when the winter came, because that's when the lakes freeze and you could go out and play hockey. And if something like this happened to me, I'm not so sure, if I was 11 years old, that I would act very differently. But the point is that in the end, your brother's friend is alive. Now, I know that you want to look at the negatives of how you ran away and everything, but again, you're a kid. What are you going to do? Are you going to jump in there as an 11-year-old and pull a 13-year-old out? That's not going to happen. What you did was you went to your brother, and then you went to your parents, or your brother went to your parents, and the kid is alive now. You're all alive now because of that. So I don't want you beating yourself over this. I can't picture anything that you could have done at the time, except for go to get, some help from your parents, brother, whatever. So, yeah, thanks for sharing the story with me, and really appreciate that. And once again, don't try to beat yourself up over this. And if any of you are out there right now thinking about going on a frozen lake, I know it's winter, take a parent. They'll test the lake for you, tell you if it's safe to go on, and if something happens, they're there to jump into action immediately. So take note from this story. Alright, that's it for Fridays with Foster this week. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you do, remember that a like helps me out tremendously, and if you really enjoyed it, last week's episode was called Fiancé, Infidelity, and Crazy Man. You can click the thumbnail to see that. That was a bit of an interesting episode, if I do say so myself. It was... you'll see. Just click on it, watch it. It's really interesting. The only word I can think to describe it. Once again, you remain 100% anonymous. I do need you guys to send in stories if I can keep this going, which 4 weeks in a row, that's pretty darn good. So I hope you enjoyed this. Until next time, this is Foster the Canadian, saying see ya.